Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside the Pigskin. My name is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Madmouth. Please be joined by Coach Don Bonamego. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Good to be here. Thanks, Scott.
You're welcome. And Bo Crouch. Welcome back, Bo.
How's it going, guys? Always fun to hang out.
And just an FYI, Bo Crouch will be the second person to be on the Motor City Madmouth show. We're hoping to get him on next Wednesday night. And last but not least, our running back is Melfar Jr.
How's it going, guys?
All right, so now we have four, but let me go over some things here real quickly before we get to the show. Everybody, it's not hard to figure out what we're going to be doing. We talk about last weekend's action and, of course, the Final Four, as well as a couple of coaching changes. With that said, just let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room is one way to do it. Or send your topic ideas, southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X @Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes and also producing the show. I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, pretty much old school media versus new school media, available on Kindle and Amazon. Also, NGBN TV will launch on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It'll be in 85% of the homes in the United States and Canada and 4.1 billion mobile devices. Can't count that high if I tried. Who knows how long it would take, but it's going to be a lot of people. A couple other things I want to get to right away. First of all, I'm going to let my crew let everybody know how they get them. We're going to be doing that at the top of the hour, and then we'll go to a couple of headlines and go to the topics. Mel, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you and Gesundheit, Mel.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, you can get a hold of me on all social media at Melfar Jr. You follow what we have going on here in Atlanta and also up in Michigan. For the kids at melfar.org.
Okay, Coach.
Well, you can find me right here and on LinkedIn. I'll be here every Tuesday night.
That's great, and we love having you, Coach, big time. And Bo?
Yes, you can find me on all the socials at Football Talk with Bo, my YouTube channel at Football-Talk, and, of course, Roku TV 5 days a week.
Very good. All right, let me go over a couple of headlines first. Okay, and that's this. Congratulations to the newest members of the Baseball Hall of Fame. The newest people in there are now Adrian Beltre, Todd Helton, and Joe Mauer. Helton and Mauer played their entire careers with one place. Helton played his entire career with the Colorado Rockies, and Mauer with the Minnesota Twins. Also today, the Milwaukee Bucks fired head coach Adrian Griffin, who's 49, had a 30-13 record. I know that one of the names being prominently mentioned for that job includes Doc Rivers. I think if they were to bring Doc Rivers on, it could be a good hire since he played college ball at Marquette University under Al McGuire. So there you have it. Another thing that we should also mention on Monday night, January 29th, Inside 108 Stitches Baseball Talk returns with myself, George Eichhorn, JT Toth, and Bradley Walker, and we might have a guest on. So we're looking forward to bringing baseball in the rotation, but that will be a Monday night. There will be no more football, baseball doubleheaders. We want to keep them separate in prime time. All right, well, let's talk about the NFL playoffs. What took place over the weekend? First of all, the Baltimore Ravens defeated the Houston Texans. Oh, some observations about this contest.
Yeah, I mean, you had to figure the experience was going to finally catch up with, catch up with the Texans. They gave them everything they had, and it's not that they played poorly or anything like that. It just looked like the Ravens were, the better team, the better roster overall. At the end of the day, the Texans are ahead of schedule. Their future looks extraordinarily bright. And they have a nice offseason or, a nice free agency period and draft to look forward to because they got some nice draft picks. They have cap room. So, I mean, they just get to add to what it is they did. And to go worst to first in their division and win a playoff game, played Ravens tough all the way through until the fourth quarter, where it kind of fell apart. But man, you couldn't ask for much more out of that Texans team. And the Ravens look like the real deal.
CJ Stroud, D'Amico Ryans worked out pretty well with their first year together. We'll turn over to Mel Farr.
Yeah, you had to be pleasantly surprised by what the Ravens did, or excuse me, by what the Texans did. I thought that was a terrible job, to be honest with you. And for them, because of ownership, what's happened the last couple of years, it just kind of looked like a dumpster fire. But obviously, D'Amico Ryan saw something differently there, and maybe because of his previous relationship with the team, being drafted there, he saw something different. I believe that CJ Stroud was the best quarterback in the draft. I said that before the draft, and they got fortunate that Carolina fell in love with the other guy, and they got the best guy. And so the future is bright for them right now. They got to get a little running game, obviously, but the better team, without question, won that game. Baltimore came out; they're a little. You could see that they were a little rusty from having that week off, but they came back out in the second half and they took care of business. But, you look at it, the Texans have, have a lot to be proud about as far as, the future looks extremely bright, especially how, with the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco and how they were fortunate enough to be able to unload the guy and get a whole lot in return for him. So that's great for them. Seems like they got the right guy at the head coach, and it seems like they also obviously have the right quarterback there as well.
Well, Lamar Jackson certainly impressed a lot of people. You can tell the fire in his eyes that he wants to win the whole thing. And you're right. I'm glad you brought up the previous coaches, David Culley and Lovie Smith got a bad deal for sure, but D'Amico Ryan's done an outstanding job. All right, Coach, since I'm talking about coaches, why don't you talk about the game?
You touched on what I was going to comment on, Scott, and is that to me what stood out in that game is how Lamar Jackson just took control of that game. He was determined. He's healthy. I mean, he was willing and able and aggressive in terms of using his legs to extend plays and then to go get yards when need be. And I mean, he just exerted his will, took over, and that's what great players do. I know he's definitely in that MVP conversation. He would get my vote. I don't see anybody that's even close to him, honestly. And it was a good game. And as you guys have all mentioned, there's a lot to be excited about when what's going on right now in Houston with the Texans. They've got really good chemistry. They're a young team. They're really good. And that stuck out to me as I watched it too. Is like you're looking at the now, but you're also getting a look at the future, because I think they're a team that's really, really close.
Yeah, Mel, the quarterback you're returning to is Bryce Young. So
Yeah.
But so Bryce Young, you know what? I still think that Bryce Young will do fine, but they have to get a coach that they can use for a while instead of get rid of him. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bo.
I said he's going to do fine on his second team. Is that what we're going with?
Yeah, one would think that. By the way, her podcast, Bo is the best, nothing but knowledge. Well, just a little FYI, Herb. Okay, Bo will be in the second edition or episode of the Motor City Mad Mouse Show next Wednesday night. We're looking at approximately 8 Eastern time, so I hope you can join us there as well. Herb, thanks for being a part of the show. So yeah, I feel for Bryce Young. I really, really do. I mean, if they would have given Frank Reich any kind of time, I think Frank would have done all right. But it is what it is. All right. With that said, let's talk about some other games. San Francisco over Green Bay, 24-21. I actually thought the Packers could win this one. Okay, Coach, we'll start where we left off.
Yeah, I mean, a great game. I thought, I thought that I did not think it was going to be that close of a game. I thought, Green Bay has a lot to be proud of, especially where they started off, the development of that quarterback. They're going on the road against the number 1 seed. They're still playing with house money, but I thought they left it all out there. I mean, it's a game of inches. You had a missed field goal. You had a failed 4th down attempt in that game. And, So they had their chances, but they can, it was an entertaining game to watch, and it was a lot closer than I thought it was going to be.
Okay, we'll turn it over to Bo.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, Coach. Like that was this was the game I thought the Niners might actually hit that spread. I thought they'd come out a little bit flat, having a week off, but I thought they'd really get rolling, and it just didn't happen. And of course, Debo ends up getting hurt. But yeah, I mean, to Herb's point in the comments there, they had their chances. They could have won this game. There was some inexperience that kind of peeked its head up on the Green Bay side a little bit. But it was when he channeled his inner Brett Favre and threw across his body for a pick that you knew it was pretty much done.
Well, I know that Brett Favre was a gunslinger. What are you slinging my way, Mel?
Well, that was a very good game, and Green Bay had many of opportunities to win that game. And I think they showed the Lions some things, particularly in the running game, where San Francisco is vulnerable. And I'm sure San Francisco's looked at those things as well, and they're going to have to correct those things, particularly when they're doing the pin and pull on Bosa. They have a wide receiver that would pin Bosa or Chase Young, and then a guard would come around and pull, and then the running back gets behind the guard, and they get in the edge. They were able to get to the edge very easily. Green Bay was. But again, Matt LaFleur is a great coach. Like I said, he had a great game plan. Came out there with a great game plan. Just unfortunately, they came a few plays short, but there were a lot of plays out there that they left out on the field that had they made those plays, it would have been a different outcome. San Francisco was reeling. Brock Purdy was struggling. I think he finally came around, the second half of the fourth quarter to looking like the Brock Purdy who I think they thought they had. But initially, I'm looking at him in the first three quarters. I'm like, man, maybe they made a mistake by letting Trey Lance get out of there, because Brock Purdy looks rattled, and it doesn't look. He doesn't look like he's going to get him there any more than than how Jimmy G looked. So we'll see. The Lions, I believe, have a good opportunity this weekend. I'm sure we'll get into that. But no, that was a good game. San Francisco was able to pull it out, but Green Bay left some plays out there on the field where they could have easily won that game, and then the Lions could have been hosting a NFC Championship at home.
Well, that'd have been nice. Yeah, Deebo Samuel is definitely a difference maker for the 49ers. But you know what I think, really, when you think about the job Matt LaFleur's done, to me, this is the best coaching job that he's done in a year, knowing that he didn't have Aaron Rodgers and he was working with a bunch of inexperienced players. I think they're the youngest team in the NFL. So I think they're ahead of their schedule is what they are. So with that said, well, since you said we were going to get into it, Mel, now we're going to do it. We're going to start off with you, okay? Lions 31-23 over the Tampa Bay Bucks, okay? Let's face the reality. The Detroit Lions under Dan Campbell has certainly gone with a nice culture change and add Brad Holmes to it. So give me your thoughts about what took place with the Buccaneers and the Lions.
I never had any doubt that they could win that football game. My only question was whether or not they're going to be looking forward to the next game versus focusing on the game right there in front of them. If they're looking forward to playing San Francisco out there in the Bay Area as opposed to dealing with Tampa Bay. And I think that Dan Campbell did a good job having his guys focused, had a good game plan. The Lions just want to be close at the end. And if they're close at the end, they'll figure out they've learned how to finish games, and they were able to finish this game. On Sunday. So I was again very impressed with them. Very impressed with Jared Goff. You don't turn the ball over. Take care of the football. I knew if you have Baker Mayfield drop back a certain number of times, if you put it in his hands, he's going to turn it over. That's just who he is. He gets these little cocky, a little arrogant, has a lot of confidence in his ability, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. And he did exactly what I thought he was going to do, and the Lions did what I thought they should do, which is win that game. And I think they have a great opportunity here coming up this weekend to get to the Super Bowl. But again, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a moment.
I'm sure we will. All right, Coach.
Yeah, I think Detroit's playing inspired football right now, and there's it shows. They were definitely ready to play, and like Mel said, Tampa Bay, they turned the ball over, so that that was the difference in the ball game. The one thing that I do or am concerned about with Detroit moving forward, though, is their secondary. I think that's kind of their Achilles heel. I think you saw that come up. Tampa was able to make some chunk plays down the field, and so, I don't know if well, again, we'll talk about the next games when we get there, but that's kind of what I noticed. The only thing I'm concerned about with the Lions.
Well, I'll tell you, the Lions certainly maximized the home field advantage with Ford Field being as loud as it was. I'm telling you what, they were gaining a lot of national recognition in terms of how loud Ford Field is with the decibel. And I tell you one thing, we've all known that Detroit, to me, is a sleeping giant waiting to happen, especially in football. And if none of us are convinced of that after what they did to the Rams and then afterwards to the Bucks, I don't know what it takes to convince you. All right, last thing we're going to get to from last week is the Kansas City Chiefs walking in to Buffalo. Did I get to you, Bo? If I didn't, go ahead.
No. So, I mean, not a lot that I got to add to it other than, like I've said all year, it's tough to pick a Baker-led team, right? Because you never know which Baker's going to show up. He's either going to throw a bunch of touchdowns or throw a bunch of picks. And both Bakers showed up, and he throws 3 touchdowns and 2 picks. So, I mean, turnovers are the difference in the game. If it was clean, they actually would have had a real shot at it. And mostly because their secondary of the Lions, you can move the ball on. And of course, we'll talk about their upcoming matchup, but that's a key piece of it.
Well, I'll tell you one thing about Baker Mayfield. I got to give the guy a lot of credit. Okay, went behind Tom Brady, ended up going 9-8. Brady went 8-9. So, and the Buccaneers want him back. Todd Bowles definitely wants him back, and I hope he ends up getting paid for what this year. And they show maybe give him 2-year deal for all I care, as long as he's stabilizing things. He knows he has a place to work and get more and more familiar. So Baker Mayfield's done a really good resurrecting job. All right, now we'll go on to the next topic. Thanks, Bo, as always, for handling things with nothing short of class. Okay, but since I promise you I won't forget you now because I'm leading off with you. Okay.
Oh, perfect.
All right, so we got the Kansas City Chiefs and the Buffalo Bills 27-24. We all thought Patrick Mahomes' first visit to Western New York when it gets cold didn't make a lick of difference, did it, Bo?
Yeah, I mean, this one I really thought the Bills were going to be able to get it done. This is an offense from KC that just hasn't been the same all year. They haven't been able to really gel. They got receivers dropping balls. They've played really uncharacteristic KC football, despite the fact that they are playing with their best defense they've had in the last 5 years. I thought the Bills really had a shot here. And there were moments during the game that you could see that their roster may be better, but they mentally weren't ready for adversity in this game. So as soon as they had kind of weird things happen, like that pass down the middle, way downfield, Diggs drops the ball, hits him square in the hands, right? You could see the feeling from that sideline of, man, here we go, right? Like you could see moments of defeat during the game, which, I mean, the game ended up being really close, obviously, but you could see those moments that kind of derailed drives because mentally they just weren't able to recover from them. And I imagine if we could see it on TV, that's a real concern if you're the coaching staff.
Well, Josh Allen, guess what? Still hasn't beat Mahomes and Joe Burrow, but I don't want to take away anything from Mel or Coach Bono if they were thinking. I'll let them talk, and I'll turn it over to Mel. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was really surprised because the way that Buffalo came into the playoffs, and even at the beginning of the year, I talked about it, man. It looked like a team that was destined to go all the way. And then they kind of hit a little rough patch there for a little bit, but then they picked it back up and they looked real good last week. And that was really a game that I was looking forward to with those two marquee quarterbacks going against one another. I thought that Buffalo would win that game. Now, they did have a chance. They had a chance at the end. Unfortunately, wide right gets him again. But, Josh Allen did everything he could to give them every opportunity to win. Now, what would have happened had the game been tied and it ended up going to overtime? I don't know. But, we can all sit here and speculate on that. But Buffalo, they, somehow or another, Josh Allen has got to be able to get over that hump, and he's got to be able to beat Patrick Mahomes. I mean, you look at the quarterbacks right now. I mean, the AFC is stacked; it's loaded. I mean, it's difficult. NFC, not that many quarterbacks on the NFC side. You only got a few quarterbacks on the NFC, but the AFC is loaded. I mean, just with those two, Josh Allen, Mahomes. Then you've got Lamar Jackson. You can say Tua. You got the kid out in Los Angeles. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on as far as the quarterbacks that you're gonna have to deal with on the AFC side. Not to mention Joe Burrow. We know he got injured. The NFC, that's why I think it'll be good for Baker Mayfield to go back to Tampa Bay, because the NFC, man, there's no dudes over there. There's no guys over there on the NFC side. But I really did think that Buffalo was going to win this game, and it's kind of unfortunate for them because they got to figure out a way to beat Pat Mahomes. I mean, they got to figure it out.
Coach?
Yeah, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me in this game was really the kicking game. I thought, I ended up, makeable field goal, missed field goal, but also, the fake punt that was failed that, Kansas City had 10 on the field and they go for that. I mean, it ended up being nullified a little bit because the fumble through the end zone, so they didn't get points out of it. But that really could have taken the game and put it out of reach, where now we're talking about a blowout. But I just think that, Sam Martin being hurt, he didn't, he wasn't his normal self. He's normally a weapon. And then, something's going on with, Tyler Bass. I mean, he's been really poor in the playoffs. So, it's game of inches. And if you really look at the two teams, I mean, Josh Allen played it well enough to win, in my opinion. The difference in the game was the kicking game.
Well, let's face reality. For those individuals that are following this show, everybody knows that your area of expertise is special teams.
Sure.
It is. I mean, I know you're a good coach doing it for a long, long time. So you can't. There's three different phases of the game. You got offense, defense, and special teams. And you obviously worked in the special teams area a long time. So if there's anybody who should talk about kicking game, nobody more qualified than you, as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, but the reality is you had a close game. I did think Buffalo had a chance to win there, but the reality is the Kansas City Chiefs are battle-tested, playoff-tested, and they took this as a challenge to win in Orchard Park, New York, and they did exactly that. I'm sure they made a lot of people that are outsiders, whether they're betting or not, wrong, because the Chiefs are battle-tested in the playoffs. All right. Well, you guys have definitely been picking it right. So now we're going to go to championship week. Now there are 4. And let's talk about the times of these games. And I'll tell you why. They're going to have Kansas City at Baltimore at 3 p.m. on CBS. Mel, some thoughts about this game being first and then a prediction.
Whether the Baltimore game being first?
Kansas City's at Baltimore, Mel, first at 3 p.m. on CBS.
Well, I think they wanted to try to take advantage of the sun. I would think play the game when it might have a chance to have a little heat. You play those games at night, man. When the sun goes down and cold weather stays, it's really cold. I mean, I'm here in Georgia, and when the sun went down here last week, it was cold. It made me think I was back in Detroit. So yeah, I don't have any problems with the time of the game. I think it's for the Lions and for the second team. They're going to be chomping at the bit to get ready. They're going to want to get out there. I'm sure they're going to watch some of that first game. Probably not going to watch all of it. The one thing you don't want to do is get yourself too amped up where you go out there, where you're exhausted when you go out there for your game. But I'm looking forward to both of these games, in particular, the AFC matchup. That's going to be a great game. But I really believe that Baltimore is, this is their year. I believe Lamar has a lot to prove. He got that big contract. I believe he wants to prove something in the playoffs, that he can make it happen. He's probably going to be the MVP of the league, and I think that they have I think they have the team to go to the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if you're asking about the games. You're just asking about the times of the games. Did you want me to go into the games? If not, I'll
no, you don't have to go into the games that much because we're going to go into them in more detail. But the only thing I was asking about the time is, do you like the time slot that Kansas City and Baltimore is in? That's the only thing. We'll get into more on next
Yeah,
week.
I like, I want to watch football. It's on Sunday, right? I like to watch football, that time of day. And I think it's good for them, again, because of the temperature.
Okay, fair enough. All right, Coach. Two-part questions. What are your thoughts about Kansas City and Baltimore being the first game of the doubleheader? And then what's your prediction for the game?
I like it. Again, I mean, gives you a chance to get some things done Sunday morning, get to church, all that stuff. Get all of your barbecuing and stuff done and ready to go for the game. So I like the times. I'm with Mel on this one, and Lamar we trust. I think it's Baltimore's year. I think it's going to be a good game. I think the difference will be that Baltimore defense and really, Kansas City not being as deep in wide receiver as they have been in the past. They got the young kid has come on for him here toward the latter part of the year. It's given him a weapon, but I think I really, really like Baltimore's defense, and I think they're going to win it.
Turn over to Bo.
Yeah, I mean, game time is great because on the West Coast, that is a 12 o'clock game, right? So, I mean, there's no staying up late to watch football or anything. All the games end at a nice time. If I want to do a post-game show or something, it's at a reasonable time. So I like it. And, of course, having Baltimore go first, that makes a ton of sense. It's going to be cold. Do it in the light. I mean, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to go one place where none of you went, and I was wondering if you would go. First of all, okay, the reason why the Lions game is second, not first, I'll give you 2 words. Ready?
It's on the West Coast.
Yep.
Roger Goodell. Forget about the West Coast. Everybody is so enamored with the Lions right now that you want them in prime time. You think about how many primetime games they've been on, and you have the Dan Campbell thing where kneecap biting and all this great culture that has. That's why the Lions are late. And the NFL is looking to market this thing like any way they can. And, any way they're going to do it, you might as well take advantage of a stove that's really boiling and burning hot. And the Lions are a hot national television commodity. As far as Baltimore will win this game. Lamar Jackson's destined to get to the Super Bowl. Has a lot of good weapons, but he's on a mission. He's hungry and he's humble. Well, speaking of the Lions in San Francisco, I already indicated my reasons why they're playing in prime time because, like I say, they're a hot commodity. You know what? I'm going to turn it over to Bo. Give me your predictions on the Lions and the 49ers.
Yeah, so it's a little too early to give you my prediction for this game because it's influenced heavily on what happens to Debo.
Right.
So he goes through, he gets checked out. It's not a fracture, so that's good. He's at least got a chance to make the game. But if he plays, the secondary of Detroit can be beat. It's been exposed numerous times throughout the year, and Debo is that dude. So if there was a guy that was going to take the top off of a defense, he's that guy. Now, if he isn't able to play, I think Detroit can win this game. So my prediction on this is actually kind of going to sway until we get a clear picture of what Debo has, because this Niners team plays wildly different when Debo's not on the field. They are extraordinarily beatable when he's off, despite the fact that Ayuk and Kittle and CMC are still there. I mean, all pro dudes, but Debo is that piece that changes this team. And so soon as we get a little more information on whether or not he plays, really dictates what this team is capable of doing. But if he's off the field, I'll take the Lions.
Bo, I got to tell you, the national consensus with all the people I watch thinks exactly the same way as you. So, if he's Debo's out, Lions win. If Debo's in, well, flip a coin, it could go the 49ers way. I want to go ahead and bring my favorite person in the chat room, James Burgess. So let's bring him on first, and we're going to go out there and turn over to Mel. and Coach. And James Burgess is really one of my favorite people in the chat room. Thanks for being a part of the broadcast, James. You are definitely appreciated. All right, Bo, with that said, why don't you please read that for me?
Oh, okay. From a weather standpoint, I can see the order. And yes, the Lions are drawing ratings all over the place. And the league wants its commercials kickers.
There you go.
Money kickers. Absolutely.
There you go, Coach. There you go, Mel. That's something to kick around. All right, Mel, some thoughts about the Lions and the Niners.
If you look at the Lions and the Niners, offensively, they're pretty much the same team. Running back, you put Montgomery with Gibbs. You know, they're CMC. They negate one another. You got all-pro wide receivers on both sides of the ball. You got very good quarterback play. You have all-pro offensive linemen. Basically, you're the same on the offensive side of the ball. Where the problem comes in is on defense. They don't have those dudes on defense. They got one guy on defense, really. The secondary, they're porous. You know, the second level, third level is suspect. So you don't know what you're going to be dealing with there. And if they're not able to make San Francisco one-dimensional somehow, it's going to be a very long evening for the Lions. So that's what concerns me. And then when they blitz, they don't necessarily get home. And if you blitz and you don't get home with guys like Deebo Samuels that can, you know, with their ability to run after the catch, that's a big, big problem. You know, make one guy miss, and the next thing you know, you're bumping your head in the goalpost. 80 yards later, that's a problem, and that takes a lot of the wind out of your sails when you're a defense. It kind of demoralizes your club. So that's the thing that I'm gonna be looking at, that I'm gonna be watching. But I'm still this game here. I'm not thinking with my head at all. This is all heart, and so I'm going. You know, I'm going with the Lions, man. The Lions. There is a path for them to win. There is a path if they can just keep it close. That's what they like to do. They like to keep it close, and they can just hang in there to the fourth quarter. They'll figure out a way to win it.
By the way, good evening, James Burgess. Got that? You're up there second, but your comments were unbelievable. All right. With that said, okay, that leaves us with Coach, right?
Yeah, I agree with everything Bo outlined and everything Mel outlined. The thing I think that's going to be important for the Lions is that, you know, they have to come out the block fast. They've got to come out firing from the first drive or first defensive series. They cannot in this game, in that atmosphere out there, because those 49er fans are every bit as energetic as the Detroit fans are. They're used to it. That place gets loud. It's outdoor stadium, but man, they can't go down. They can't get down in this game two scores, 9 points, whatever, and expect to come back and win it. You know, if they can hold up in the secondary, which again, if Deebo does not play, that really works to their favor. Yeah, they can stay in it. You know, my head says take the Niners, but my heart says go Lions, baby.
I mean, it's that feel-good story, right? Like you
Sure.
want to.
No, I'm pulling for them. I really, you know, man, you know, Mel's from Detroit. I'm from Michigan. I mean, it's like if there's a city that deserves to have their team go to the Super Bowl, I mean, the Lions fans deserve that, man. I really want it for the city and for all those diehards that just have come back year after year after year. And man, it's exciting.
And by the way, Coach, I'm a Metro Detroiter too.
I meant that too, Scotty, of course.
Don't worry about it. It's okay, Coach. And I'll even take it a step further. Okay, ready, Coach and Mel and Bo? The last time the Lions won a championship was on my birthday, December 29th, 1957. But I was born 5 years later. Take that for what it's worth. Now, a couple other things that I want to mention as well. All right, and I'll go ahead with James Burgess, and I'll get back to my point. Lions rest will be scored 27 points at least. Let CMC eat it, okay, and don't let him kill. What Christian McCaffrey, I'm assuming 100 yards and a touchdown is fine, and knock Purdy around, and defense probably needs some DB blitzes again. Good stuff, James. All right, here's a couple of things that will add a little intrigue to it. Let's look at the quarterback matchup. You've got Brock Purdy against Jared Goff. Jared Goff has already been there. That's the one matchup that most people should really look at when they look into this game. And here's another one. Ready? There are 4 teams that haven't been in the Super Bowl: the Lions, the Jaguars, the Texans, and the Browns. I'm sure Dan Campbell's probably saying, let there be 3 and let's get there. So if that isn't a big enough incentive, I don't know what the heck is. My heart tells me to go with the Lions, and I'm going with it because, again, I think to some extent they're on house money, and anytime an underdog stays in there, then the favorite tends to become a little bit nervous. And we saw that dynamic when the Green Bay Packers ousted the Dallas Cowboys. We could be looking at something similar to that as well. House money. I can't tell you how many times I've used that in the last 7 to 10 days and don't really, frankly, care. It's been a good hashtag for me, and it's going to be another one tonight. So,
yeah, I mean, the one thing the Lions have to be really careful about is, they have kind of played with their food with other teams throughout the season, and the Niners aren't that team. You can't let them hang around. If you get the opportunity to put them away, you need to put them away.
No question about it. Final topic of the night pertains to coaching. Jared Mayo to New England. The Raiders hire Antonio Pierce. All right, since we have a coach on here, Coach Bono, why don't you tell me about what your thoughts are of those particular hires?
I think they're 2 very good hires. They're very similar in some regards. Both defensive guys, both played in the league, both linebackers. I thought, I thought Antonio Pierce, what he did as the interim this year, how he kept that team together. He clearly had the support of the locker room. I think he's very deserving, and I'm happy for him that that he's getting an opportunity to get the job full time. I had an opportunity to work with him back in 2006 when he was still playing for the Giants, and I was on Sean Payton's staff, and we ended up coaching the Pro Bowl back when it was an actual Pro Bowl, right, Mel? Right. And had a chance to be around him, and he was a pro's pro back then. You know what I mean? Look, there's the worst job in football. Okay, the worst job in the best environment is coaching special teams at an All-Star game at the Pro Bowl. Right, because there's only 4 guys that really care or give a dang, and that's the long snapper, the kicker, the punter, and then whoever the designated cover guy is, and then everybody else has got to pitch in. But back in those guys weren't, these guys aren't covering kicks or blocking on kickoff return during the season. They're Pro Bowlers for a reason. And I know I'm getting out of but Antonio Pierce was the type of player that truly embraced every part of it, every role. You know what I mean? It's like he didn't, he was fantastic to work with. I'm really happy for him and his success. I don't have a story or any any interaction really with Mayo other than being on the opposite sideline and watching him as a player, and clearly he's a student of the game, very intelligent. He played that way and is a guy that's done a good job as a position coach to have that in his contract, that he was going to be the successor. Credit to the Patriots. They stayed to their word because, after a season like the one they had, could have been and very easily justified in just saying, hey, I know it, we're going to blow this up and go outside, but happy for him as well. And, very, it's exciting for both those franchises.
Well, you make some excellent points. Anytime you talk, I always enjoy listening to you anyway, so don't worry about it. Sorry, we'll turn it over to Bo.
Yeah, I mean, Mayo, I guess, was a little bit of a surprise. I thought they were going to make a play for Vrabel, right? Since Vrabel became available, he's one of their guys. It would have been, kind of a smoother transition. Not to say that Mayo won't be, but from the outside looking in, you're like, oh, okay, that seems like that could be a smooth transition. But awesome for Mayo, especially to have that in the contract. That is incredibly smart. So, I mean, awesome opportunity for him. And then, of course, for Pierce, man, like you couldn't have asked for a better situation for an interim head coach. He comes in, and I'd say he really earned that job, right? I was going to be extraordinarily disappointed in that franchise if they yet again moved on from an interim head coach that did a good job for him. So, awesome for them to give him the shot. And yeah, to everybody's point, like the locker room really seemed to rally around and took over. So I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch. He's got his work cut out for him though, because they got some holes to fill.
Well, I will point this out that I found out today that Tom Telesco is being considered for the general manager job. Did a wonderful job out with the Chargers. So if the Raiders are able to make that hire with Tom Telesco, you have yourself a good revamped front office for sure. And there's no question that both these guys have earned their jobs. Interim guys do make it if you put on a good showing. Many years ago, Wayne Fonts took over for Darryl Rogers. And how did that work out? I'd say it worked out well. All right, we'll turn it over to Mel Farr.
Yeah. I think Tom Telesco, I think he was hired for that Raiders position. I think Brian Callahan is getting the Titans job, the head coaching job. But no, I'm very happy for these guys here. Obviously, when you have everybody knows these guys in the locker room, although Mark Davis may not have known Antonio Pierce for an extended period of time, he's got to know him at least for a year or however long he's been on that coaching staff. He's been able to interact with him over that time, and also he sees how the players interact with him. And I think everybody's looking for the next whiz kid. Everybody's looking for the next McVay. They're looking for the next Shanahan. They're looking for the next LaFleur or whoever it is. They're looking for the next guy. And sometimes that guy is right there within your building already. Give him a chance. I mean, these are two. What I'm really happy about is these are two African American young guys who played the game that are getting an opportunity to coach the game at the highest level. And I think that's great. I think that's great, what Mark Davis is doing. I think that's great what Mr. Kraft is doing. But and him having it in his contract, making sure that they felt that they had somebody there, but they wanted to give, Coach Belichick a little bit more time, see if he could turn this thing around. But they had a succession plan. When that day comes, this is what's going to happen. So I think it's great. You're looking at it. For me as a young kid, and you have other kids, kids of color who are looking, and maybe they want to make this a profession for themselves. And like, hey, there's an opportunity for me there, not just to be a position coach or not to just be, maybe even a coordinator, which, a lot of times we don't get an opportunity to get those coordinator positions, but there's an opportunity for me to get the head coaching job and not necessarily have to be a coordinator. I can be a position coach and get to be a leader of men. So I think it's great on both of those franchises part to name these two individuals head coach.
Well, let me put it to you this way. As far as Jared Mayo is concerned, to be able to follow a 4-13 Bill Belichick will give him more time instead of one that left with a winning record. That's number one. As far as Antonio Pierce is concerned, you know what? He's always been a lifelong Raider, has always cheered for him. But he didn't get that job because of the fact that he was a Raiders guy. He got it because he earned it. And if you look at James Burch's comment, and I will read it out there, that if Davis had not retained Pierce, it would have sparked chaos. Yes, he learned something from last time, meaning Rich Bisaccia. Mayo obviously has been set for this. Continuity is a plus in both cases, as we found out when they did not bring on Rich Bisaccia. So, James Burgess, thank you very much for validating what I just put out there. I think both guys are going to do a really good job. I think that and the Patriots have some money to spend in free agency as well, and a top tier draft choice. And Pierce, well, you know what? I believe he's bringing Tom Coughlin is being brought on here to help him find some assistant coaches, and obviously we know how well that they had worked as well. So, great show tonight. I want to let everybody know that Inside the Pigskin is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Inside the Pigskin can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter /X@Tribune South. Candy Ebling is behind the scenes as well as producing the show. I have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, available on Kindle and Amazon. And that book is pretty much old school media versus new school media. I have a lot of good stories about people that I've met and I haven't met that I learned a lot from, and I hope that some of y'all can benefit from it as well. NGBN TV will launch on Roku, Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and mobile devices. It will be in 85% of the homes in the U.S. and Canada and 4.1 billion mobile devices. Great job by my crew tonight. This forced them worked out really well. So with that said, on behalf of Bo Crouch, Coach John Bonamago, Melfar Jr., and of course, we want to thank everybody in the chat room, James Burgess, as well as, let me go over the particulars because we always enjoy their presence, Herb and Raj podcast, and of course, Dave Bradley, who's also at NGBN. Want to thank them for participating as well. So on behalf of my crew, this is Scott Morganroth, the Motor City Mad Mouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of Inside the Pigskin. We will catch you next Tuesday night with an update on the Final Four. Good night, everybody, and thanks, Feather Freebird, for your kind words. And you know what? James Burgess, good to be back home and catch y'all. We'll see you soon. You bet. We really look forward to it as well. So thanks, everybody, for joining us, and we will catch you next week. Have a great weekend and enjoy the football.